All right, we're at the hour. Right on time. Check, check, radio check. Harold, thanks for taking time out of the day to spend time with us. Hope all is well. We're this is going to be a relatively quick chat with Chris because it's about things that are affect us all. I know personally I've been affected, and we'll talk through it, not ad lib, but the content is pretty direct, and depending on people's familiarity, right? In today's world, you have cybercrime. And so that means that we need to be more cognizant of cybersecurity. And it's protecting our devices and our data. And I'll be honest with you, initially, data, I was like, yeah, 15 years ago, I was like, when I would hear about this, I'd be like, yeah, we lock our office, we lock our files. We were very much paper oriented. But no, as everything has evolved, and we've gravitated towards utilization of technology. Now we're 100% virtual. All my paper files are stored on site. There's nobody getting that. But in electronic communication, all of us here at Professional Planning Services have a responsibilities as fiduciaries to protect clients' accounts, confidentiality, and we've had attempts. It's interesting. One of our clients, we got an email, and it came from her account on AOL. And said, "Hey, Chris, how are you? I need to withdraw, like $32,000." Well, it was standard practice. And we were like, let's pick up the phone and call the client, and we did that. And she said that was not me. And so, these criminals have become more and more sophisticated. And then with the advent of AI, we really have to just really just double check. I mean, the days of, phone calls and robocalls to seniors to sell them something or maybe get scammed, it still happens. But this is where these criminals have really, and quite often they're not even in the U.S., right? They're foreign countries. Kids that when I call them kids, I'm saying, high schoolers, college, your teens, 20s, 30s that are brilliant at code and figuring out and utilizing technology to crack. And you're going to see some things that are alarming. So although it's not something that inherently, if we're from the baby boomer generation or millennials even, right, we're all having to take notice that you too can be affected, which is why we wanted to bring this up today. Common cyber threats. Maybe you're familiar with some of these, and maybe you're not. So malware. I remember. Again, 15 years ago, one day I was on my laptop and I clicked on something, and all of a sudden, I started watching all my files get locked. And they wanted to, thank God I disconnected. And so I had everything backed up, and it was ransomware. They wanted to take and charge me a fee, and there are corporations that actually pay it because they got caught. So between malware is that sort of Trojan horses, key stroke capturing type programs. And so that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to guess your password so they can then try and pretend they're you, and all the stuff that we hate. And but if it happens to you, or if you're not on your guard, it is absolutely painful. And that's why corporations sometimes are held, and they're at the complete mercy. And that's why it has become such a booming industry, both on the attack side. Now it's coming from foreign entities. Like I said, not only Russia, China has state of the art, skilled hackers, the dark web, all this stuff that's going on. And the other area, remember that when we used to get the letters in the mail from, hey, my name is Dr. Some. Nigerian name from Nigeria that is trying to send me millions of dollars somehow, but A, they can't spell, and B, like I just often wonder, does anybody ever fall prey to that? But hey, listen, we want to send you this money. We just need your bank account information, and then you go, lo and behold, a few $1,000s later, they've raided your account, and so we've all heard of those stories because that was the old way, right? They were using pen and paper and snail mail and some type of, maybe it was a fax or an email, but now what's happened, and especially in my industry, we have to go through pretty extensive training on phishing. And phishing is that, you always want to check I don't know about you, but I must get on my cell phone daily 10 or 15 solicitations from USPS, UPS, FedEx, somebody telling me about some lost package or how somehow my account is going to be closed if I don't respond. I don't respond to any of that stuff. I don't click on it. I don't like it. And I think that the risk is very, very great. But as we start to age up, something looks close. Maybe it's a company you deal with. I always like the one where you all of a sudden get some notification from a bank you don't even deal with. You know right off the bat it's not valid. But phishing, what they'll do is they'll turn around and you got to look at that email. Is it from, so let's just use Home Depot because I was just there. And if they're coming from Home Depot, first of all, why is Home Depot reaching out to me like this? And secondly, what are they trying to extract? And that's why it's never wrong to pick up the phone and call somebody. So, I know I went a little deep there, but this is just sharing my personal experience. Malware, again, these are the four things we're going to talk about. This is where I talked about, malicious software that cyber criminals use to damage or steal data. So that's that keystroke stuff, right? You're sitting here typing, you think your password's good, and there's an underlying code capturing every keystroke, and then you don't know, and next thing you know, you find out an account's been hacked. Phishing, this is where when you see that fraudulent purporting and reputable, right? You got to go into the URL, look at where it's being the origination, and if uncertain, pick up the phone and call somebody, right? Then you have that ransomware, and this is the one that it's significant, the amount of financial loss throughout the world globally. These guys are good, and they've turned it into a business, and there's not a lot, it's almost James Bond like, right? That they are able to um, uh, disguise their location, their origination, where they came from, and they get the money and they're gone. And so you just never want to have to go through this personally, professionally. It's just ugly. And then Change Healthcare, one of the year's most significant accounts, right? Attacks, if not the most significant, occurred against United Healthcare. Change Healthcare on February 21st. The healthcare technology company, which provides payment and reimbursement services, suffered a massive data breach, prolonged disruptions, and substantial recovery costs. In May, United Health Group CEO Andrew Whitty testified during a House Energy and Commerce Subcommittee and Oversight and Investigations hearing. Whitty revealed that Change Healthcare was breached through a Citrix portal that did not have MFA enabled, right? These are all technical terms. Bottom line is, doesn't matter how big you are. If these guys can get hit just based on oversight, somebody in the IT department or somebody set it up, forgot to enable a switch, these hackers found it. Additionally, he confirmed that Change Healthcare paid the Alf Black Cat ransomware. Think about $22 million. Paid them. They had no choice. And that's why it's so ugly. And that's why we have to be careful. So here's tips. Use strong passwords. Use long, unique passwords that combine letters, numbers, and symbols. And I'm going to stop here because, again, I am an old dog. The amount of time, to change your password and then to go back and remember what you changed back. The days of my old personality being so resistant to this. have changed. So one of my partners uses a system that's a password generator. So it's a third party program that stores the password, but when they generate it, it's creating this new password. So it really is pretty slick because it just allows these guys, they're so complex, the passwords that are generated, but it's stored so that only the real user can access it. Enable two-factor authorization. So again, I deal as a fiduciary, as people that deal in people's personal information. Both on assets, on insurance, on technology, all of these things. People trust me, and I can't be making that phone call. Hey, Chris, what happened? So for me, from my computer that I deal with right here that I'm on, I must do two-factor authorization. So they send me the code to my phone, and then I'm able to access the system on a client's behalf. And then Charles Schwab is one of the custodians we use, and so we have my wife and I have our accounts. We're not even allowed to be in the same room together when setting up the accounts because that's how seriously they take security. Updating software. Keep your operating systems, antivirus softwares, and apps up to date. Again, that's one of those things that's annoying. You're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then next thing you know, you were comfortable, but all your data was not updated. When you do that, new viruses, new technologies being created every day. And so, the depending on whether you use Apple or you use Microsoft, they're creating fixes against these hackers, and that's a way to slow them down. And then be wary of those suspicious emails. Like I said, if you just won the lottery and that they are, that they've been looking for you for a year now, and that they just want to send you your money, tell them to deposit, send you a check, right? Or don't even talk to them, right? Don't even play games because you're end up going to get, in trouble. This is one of the things that really, Caitlin shared this with me last year, and it just blew my mind. When you look at this, right? Let's look at number of characters. So a lot of them are 8 characters, one uppercase, rest lowercase, and then some type of symbol. So if you look at eight, right? You are looking upper and lowercase, numbers, uppers and lowercase. You were looking at 3 to 7 years for AI. So it's not impossible. So that's why when they tell you strong password, right? You start thinking about things that are extensive. So it does behoove you to maybe start to go out 14 characters, because then even with numbers only, it's 1 year. Lowercase 766 years, right? 12 billion years now, and that's just today in 2025. I guarantee you, if I were to bring this up 5 years from now, we would see all those greens probably golds, and all the reds probably purple, right? This is how quickly it's evolving. So the purpose that we wanted to share here today was really just make sure that you protect your information. And then I'm going to share this last little piece of advice. I have a client that we helped into retirement, and he retired at 65. He is now 68, 3 years later, and he is aggressively starting to show signs of early stage dementia. And he can't remember things. Like I would have a phone call with him literally the day before, said, "Hey, I'm stopping by tomorrow. I'll be there at 11 o'clock." I showed up the next day, and he's like, "What are you doing here?" He had no recollection of the phone call. Well, he has his good friend who met me there, and between the three of us, what I realized as I was trying to help him get the information, Social Security, so he's got cash flow, all the stuff that's going on, he turns around and he can't remember his password. He must be changing his password at least 2, 3 times a day, right? So that created a whole set of problems. So we hired the Geek Squad at Best Buy. They came over to the house. They got him squared away. But one of the things I started to think about, and I wanted to share with everybody on this call, and it will be part of my conversations with folks in the future. Um, you have to write down someplace your passwords for your significant other. Because if somebody, has to go in and access your data because you're incapable to, and it should only be by somebody you trust, like your spouse, right? That you are able to, or your estate planning attorney, right? That they should be able to get it, because if it's locked into the cloud and they can't get it, there's just, you're talking years to be able to go through the court systems to be able to access that. It takes a long time. So I just make sure that you're starting to think about some of this stuff. We felt it was timely just with a lot that's been going on in the world, which is why we wanted to touch on this topic. So, tips: set up an account alerts, receive notifications when transactions occur in your accounts, monitor your accounts regularly, review your statements, report any transactions you don't recognize, back up your data. That saved me. Apple has a tremendous capability called what's it? Timestamp or time warp, or but basically it takes wherever you were and it's able to back it up if you turn that on. Use a virtual private network, VPN, right? So I know Caitlin's husband is in charge of IT. He set up their system at their house, like Fort Knox, right? And when he came over, he's at my house, he's like, hey, do you have that? And we do, because we're just very cognizant of. But a lot of people just, this is not the days of AOL dial-up anymore. We're at a point in time where IT and security has to be part of your strategies. And then use location services, enable location services so you can track your devices, enable remote wiping. If your device is lost or stolen, you can erase the data remotely. So without further ado, I want to thank each and every one of you for taking time for hopping on today. It's a little off of what we normally would talk about, but hopefully brought you some value. Everybody stay safe. I'm no calls for the next 2 weeks. I will be business and vacation. I'll be in away. So if you need me, send a via email and I'll go from there.